Hi, my name is Jonathan Alexander, one of the Panthers beat writers here at the Charlotte Observer.
And I'm Alaina Getzenberg, the other Panthers writer here at the Observer.
And you wrote a story about offensive guard Chris Reed, who is a starter, but he started the season on the COVID-19 list and was out for about 3 weeks. Tell me a little bit about that story, how we found out about it and what you learned.
Yeah, so the Panthers, COVID-19 has really impacted a ton of NFL teams, and the Panthers are, knock on wood, knock on all the surfaces, because we want everyone to stay as healthy as possible, really not been as impacted as a lot of other teams we've seen by COVID-19. They've had 3 players placed on the reserve COVID-19 list, which is basically for someone who either tests positive or has been in very close contact with someone who has. So the second player that the Panthers put on was offensive lineman Chris Reed, who, was someone they claimed towards the end of last season, and really he was probably going to be a backup on the roster, most thought. But we heard a lot of positives about him from Coach Rule during training camp. And then, he was placed on the list at the end of August. And then he didn't come off for 3 weeks. So he did test positive for COVID-19, which he's been very open and sharing. And, he's made the choice to speak about. I think the thing for him was he was surprised he tested positive. It wasn't something that, he was going out a lot or anything like that.
Practice and tested positive. And basically, I was a big surprise because I felt normal for about 1 or 2 days after. It steadily kind of increased shortness of breath, and that was kind of the worst of it.
He has a pregnant wife, and so he couldn't even stay in his house to make sure she and the baby were both healthy. So he stayed in a hotel. He quarantined for 10 days. After 10, he wasn't testing positive anymore, but he did have heart inflammation for a week.
It was the lingering effect for a week. When I came out of quarantine, I wasn't able to technically work out yet. They eased me back in physically because, sitting down and not doing anything for 3 weeks it has impacts on your cardio system, but it also, soft tissue and stuff that hasn't been working for a while.
Which is why he had to stay on the COVID-19 list for a 3rd week. So I think, it's a really interesting case. And now he's starting at left guard, but I think it was really interesting to see. It affects people in so many different ways, and he's someone who, had to deal with a variety of symptoms.
Yeah, for sure. And, he seemed pretty, sincere about it and talking to, then the media as a whole. It seemed like it really affected him, especially with his wife. I think it's, amazing that he didn't, give it to anybody else on the team. I hate to hear about the heart inflammation thing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it was pretty much just once he wasn't testing positive anymore, the Panthers do a variety, making sure everyone's healthy and all that. And they just found that there was heart inflammation. So he was not testing. He was testing negative for COVID-19. And, it was only there for a week. So I think he was a lucky one who, it wasn't something he had to deal with more long term. But we're seeing COVID-19 has some connection to bigger athletes we're seeing. I mean, I'm not a doctor and I'm not trying to make any conclusions, but there has been a connection to heart issues and COVID-19. And I think he was very lucky that after a week they found that inflammation had really died down, and, they were able to he was healthy and able to then work his way back into football shape, and he started against the Chargers. So he was able to do it, but it's that kind of stuff that you don't hear as much about.
Many of the NFL's players, about 70% of them and 50% of them on the Panthers, are at risk for severe symptoms of COVID-19 because they have higher BMIs, and especially offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And when you couple that with COVID-19, you tend to get more serious symptoms, which is probably why the heart inflammation issues, came about and he experienced those symptoms. But, it's good to hear that he's doing fine now, for the team. And he's definitely going to be a key part of the Panthers going forward. They hadn't given, as an offensive line, they hadn't given up a sack in 2 games. Is that correct? Was it 3
games? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first time they haven't given up in sacks in 2 straight games since 2011. Definitely an improvement. And I mean, I think it's one of those things where, like, the Panthers, this coaching staff was super high on Chris Reed. I didn't think he was going to be this team's starting left guard, but we're seeing that they have a lot of confidence in him. And, you know, it's cool to see someone. He talked to me a lot about the fact, like, the mental battle he was going through while he was in quarantine because he didn't know if he'd made the roster. So, like, on top of everything else, he didn't know if he had a job when he, you know, got out of that. So, like, I can't even imagine. But I just think, and now seeing where he is starting and healthy, I think it's really cool to kind of see